So at this point, things weren't looking good. I have my second teachers meeting or mentors meeting with Cece with Emma in the background, the second major one. And at this point, I have about maybe 6 or 7 team teachers under my belt. And they just start this meeting off. Cece is obviously she's the speaker. I'm listening, and Emma's in the back listening. And Cece opens up with, so are you open to changing your lesson plan? And I kind of understood what she was getting at because this was earlier with Diana. Diana, she always wanted me to change my lesson plan into something that was not in the teacher's notes. And to people who are not in the EF company, you're probably wondering, "Well, what are teacher's notes?" And this is essentially like our script. It is how we're supposed to run the class. And depending on who you ask, you follow it one to one or you modify it and customize it on your own. It's interesting because in regional induction training, they told us not to copy the teacher's notes one for one, and you're supposed to take it and you're supposed to actually modify it and cater it to your class's needs. But Emma told me in the very first, when she was, blowing steam at me, the very first mentors meeting, she said, I'm looking for a teacher that follows the teacher's notes and that's it, nothing different. And at that point, I just kind of copied whatever the teacher's notes told me to do. So if the teacher's notes told me to play a certain game, I played the exact game with their exact rules. If it told me to sing a certain song, I did the same song, and I didn't make much variations or deviations from the teacher's notes. Essentially, there was no right answer with Emma and Cece. That if I took 2 hours planning 20-minute lesson, that I was wasting my time and I was being inefficient. But if I took 10 minutes to plan a 20-minute lesson, that it was a rushed lesson. So whenever I answered one of their questions, it seemed like I was incompetent um, or inefficient. And I knew what Cece was getting at when she was asking me, "Are you willing to change your teacher's notes based on someone's recommendation?" She was asking me like, "How willing?" And I told her, "Of course, I'm willing to change my teacher's notes, change my lesson plans. I'm willing." And they're asking me a lot of questions, but no questions in regard to my improving performance. And it was very strange and toxic at the same time because I was coming into work knowing that I was improving, getting better with teaching the kids, getting more familiar with the kids, and also teaching the content, teaching phonics, vocabulary, grammar, reading. I was getting more and more confident, screenshotting things and sometimes even improvising things, also following the teacher's notes. And I was receiving actually more positive feedback from other senior teachers, in particular, not just the two that I mentioned, but there were others who actually gave me some positive feedback. So I was wondering why any of the positive things weren't being mentioned in this second teachers meeting. And I realized perhaps that Cece wasn't the benefactor that I thought she was. And the way she constructed the discourse in front of Emma, it always made me seem like I didn't know what I was doing or I was not doing things right. And at this point, Emma, our line manager, she's never seen me teach, but just based off the first impression I had of her, is as if or her first impression of me is as if she never really liked me from the beginning. And nothing that came out of her mouth after that was ever positive or a good thing. So in that particular meeting, Emma only asked me one question, and she was like, "Do you like it here?" something like that. And I thought she was talking about China. So I responded, oh yeah, China's okay. I'm still getting used to it. And, at this point, I'm still new to China. I'm still extremely new to Foshan. And she elaborated, oh, not here in China, but here at the company. How do you like the job? Do you still want to be here? And I'm just responding like, of course I want to be here. I've come all this way. I want to, show my expertise. I want to work with the kids, and I want to be a part of the EF family. And Emma, she just kind of looks at me, and she's like, okay, and she dismisses me, and then her and Cece stay behind, and they're talking in Chinese, but I can kind of tell they're not really saying anything really good or nice about me. And I'm contemplating, what can I do next? We had a holiday come up called Tomb Sweeping Day, and I started reaching out to people that trained me before, like Sophie from Regional Induction Training. I was reaching out to people who seen my ethic, seen my work, my work vigor, my diligence, because it seemed like no matter what I did at Foshan 2, it was either too much, not enough, but definitely it wasn't good enough. And the people who could verify that I was actually serious about this job and I was trying my best during the team teachers. Now, at the same time, I'm comparing my team teachers to other people in different centers, and they're shocked by the lack of support that I have. That I have a mentor, Cece, who's very reluctant to help me, say anything nice about me, anything good about me. And she's supposed to be my mentor. She's like, this old head, like I mentioned. I'm like freshly 30 years old, and she's like perhaps in her 50s. And it seems that I didn't think we had any issues, but after that first mentors meeting, the air at Foshan 2 began to change. People who, I met at the train station who were asking me if I was a rapper, asking me if I was married, all of a sudden weren't making eye contact with me when I'd walk in the hall. And a lot of the people who used to greet me and say hello stopped greeting me and say hello. And, people would just either stare at me or look away when I came around, and there was a strange vibe, like I had cooties or a virus or something. And I felt uncomfortable in Foshan 2. I felt uncomfortable talking to people because I knew they were talking about me and my performance. And there was one team teacher I did in particular that confirmed that. So I was working with a senior teacher named Danny, and she was very, very helpful, very, very cool. Till this day, I have a lot of respect for her. And she asked me to open up the class, though I was only responsible for 20 minutes of vocabulary. She asked me to open the class, set the rules, divide the teams, do the classroom management, and then teach vocabulary. So, I did exactly that. Sometimes they throw you for a curveball and make you do a little bit more than you're supposed to do on your schedule. But I was in a position where I couldn't say no. I couldn't say, well, I'm only responsible for grammar and vocabulary. If they want you to open the class or close the class as well, then you just do it. And I was fine to do it. I was already comfortable having done it so many times. But after, I did my section and I taught vocabulary and played games with the kids. Danny was so surprised. She was like, wow, you actually did much better than I thought. She was like, wow, because, I was hearing these things, and exactly that. She thought that I probably couldn't teach or couldn't do the job. And this was a reaction that I was getting. When people finally saw me teach, it was much different than what the notes they read or what was being said about me. That they really didn't give me a chance until they actually were assigned to team teach with me. And I guess my only thing was like, I was saying, well, if I surprised you, then I'm certain to surprise Emma when she finally sees me team teach. Because I think someone has been feeding her the wrong information, and I think that person was Cece. I think it was my mentor who was actually feeding her all the negative information from the notes or perhaps what people were saying personally. But honestly, I don't think it was Cece initially. I think Emma herself disliked me from the very first day I arrived to Foshan 2. And I can prove that because she only interviewed me and no one else. The second time we spoke, she already scolded me and said that I was off track, even though it was like my 8th day at the center. And other teachers have been here much longer, and talking to them, they've made the exact same mistakes or similar mistakes during the team teaches. And the thing is, the team teaches are designed for you to get firsthand experience. You're not supposed to make mistakes, but it's very common that a new teacher will make mistakes when dealing with new students of different ages and different levels and different English speaking levels that you would have to target and address them differently. Sometimes you'd be assigned the 4-year-olds, the bright sparks. Sometimes you'd be assigned the 9-year-olds, and sometimes you'd be assigned the 12 and the 13-year-olds. And you'd have to address each of those age groups and classes with different target language. And it wasn't something you can just do 5 minutes before. So to go into the final note, I was wondering perhaps I should change my mentor. There were things that I wanted to do to prevent failure, and I created an action plan. I called people from other centers. I called people who trained me to come and actually observe me themselves. I wanted to set up a video camera in the back to record my entire lesson so that there were no discrepancies when someone said, you didn't teach pre-reading or you didn't correct that student's language. And the third thing I wanted to do was switch my mentor from one who didn't seem supportive at all, who probably didn't even like me as a person, to be honest, and switch it to another one who was actually super supportive and probably did like me as a person. And I wanted to switch to a mentor, and my logic would have been that under mentor Justin, he would lead me to success. He was very patient, smart, and understanding, and under his guidance, I believe that I can pull myself out of the theoretical hole that I've been thrown in. And it's so strange because at regional induction training, I was one of the most engaging, charismatic. I had the highest amount of X factors and energy, and even Sophie noted it. And then all of a sudden, I go to Foshan 2, and I'm behind all the new teachers, which is strange. To continue, I wanted to set these meetings, and I've asked who I can talk with to set the meetings, and apparently only Emma could set those meetings. She was the line manager. I didn't have the authorization to, one, call a meeting of all the people who gave me feedback and clarify the discrepancies. One teacher said something like, I spent 5 minutes on a lesson plan. 5 minutes on a lesson plan when we never even had a conversation before. I was actually responsible for an hour of teaching that day. An hour. So how could I have spent 5 minutes on a lesson plan if I taught for an entire hour? And it was these strange discrepancies that I wanted to address in the meeting, but I didn't have the authorization to. And when I asked my mentor, she said I couldn't. And when I asked other senior teachers, they said I couldn't. So I kind of let the idea go. Now the very next day, this is the pivotal day. This is the day that changes everything. I was tasked to monitor or observe, let's use the term observe a parent-teacher conference. And on my schedule, it said Sam will observe a parent-teacher conference from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And that day, I went in doing my observations as usual. They put you in the back of the class. You have your notebook, and you just kind of write what's going on. So one parent will come in after another, and the senior teacher, would address the parent. It was the senior teacher, the PA, which is kind of like a parent advisor, and the Chinese parent. And it would be like a triangular format. It was kind of like this. You would have the PA here, you would have the parent here, and the teacher would be here. And if the format was like this, then I was like way in the corner, like over here. I was far off to the right side of the room, writing notes. And mind you, the parents, they walked in the room and they never addressed me. They never said hello to me. They never looked at me. They never smiled at me. They only focused on the parent advisor and the teacher right here. So I'm in the back. I'm writing my notes. And there's a desk. There's a desk like right in front of me. So usually when I finish writing my notes, I'm like this, I'd fold my arms or lay my arms on the desk like that. But though this might seem very, very minor, because it's a very natural thing for me to do. Like my whole life, I'd walk around folding my arms like this or something. This might seem very minor, but this was later brought up to me, and I didn't really understand why. But the PA went up to me and she said, "Oh, hey, I've never spoken to this PA before, but she said, oh, hey, you were like this in a parent-teacher conference." And that could be seen as a little disrespectful, that you should actually place your hands like this. Like you can't see my knees right now, but she wanted me to place my hands on my lap or something. And this was kind of like the first time I've ever heard of something like that. And I was like, oh, is that like a disrespectful thing in China? And she was like, oh, not really. And I was wondering why she would even say that. Come earlier that morning, Emma says, oh, I need to see you at 5 p.m. I need to see you, Sam, at 5 p.m. And, like, up until this point, I've never really had a good conversation with Emma. So I was like, okay, this is pretty serious. I either did something, I either said something, or she's just going to get rid of me. But I thought perhaps we can come to an understanding, because she goes up to another teacher named Morgan, who also trained with me. And it's strange that Morgan, he's like this white man from the United Kingdom. He's very tall. And I'm like this black American from America. And me and him had such completely different experiences at Foshan 2. He started a week after me. And he's never been berated by Emma. He's never been scolded for his uniform. A lot of times he wore a blue button-up shirt, blue jeans, and blue shoes. And I was the one who was scolded for my uniform, wearing the black pants that you're supposed to wear and the black shoes that you're supposed to wear. I've noticed that more than half of the people in the center don't even follow the shoes. They wear white shoes, yellow shoes, green shoes. And a lot of people don't even wear black pants. They wear gray pants or blue pants or a skirt or whatever. So even that day, Emma wasn't even wearing the uniform properly. And I was being berated for my uniform. So come 5 o'clock, I'm pulled into this meeting. And I thought the meeting would be a bit positive, because just 10 minutes before 5, Emma pulls Morgan to the side, showing Morgan all of the teacher bands. Like you could go up to teacher band level 2 or teacher band level 3. By default, we're all teacher band number 1. That we have to work our way up like every 6 months to reach the next promotion or something. But Morgan, having just been here 1 week, all of a sudden Emma is showing him the teacher band. And there's been rumors from the other black teachers who didn't pass probation with Emma or struggled with Emma, that she just doesn't like black people, that she just doesn't really like us. And even worse if you're black American, because Chinese people naturally are enemies of America. Like, we've never been on good terms for a long, long time. And now you're black American. That's like 2 more reasons not to like you. So I'm not sure what Emma's affiliation is, but it seems that she didn't like me from the very moment she met me. and every subsequent meeting after. So I have this meeting with Emma, thinking, what does she possibly want to talk to me about at 5 p.m. And she pulls me in, and the center director is also in the meeting. And I was like, okay, I thought it was a meeting between me and Emma, but it's a meeting between me, the center director, and Emma. So these are like the two highest powers in that office. And I'm wondering, okay, what's going on? So Emma first asked me, what was your takeaway about the parent-teacher conference this morning? And I was like, I noted that, the teacher at this point was Deshawn, the person that looks just like me. He would usually start with something positive about the student, and the parents would laugh and be like, yeah, that's my son, that's my daughter. Like this, he would start with some positive story, and then he would move on to say, well, your student still needs, your child still needs help on writing or reading or spelling. He would have the assessment in his hand, and then have the student's homework on the whiteboard, on the IWB, what we call it. And so after I said that, Emma was like, so what's your main takeaway? And I was a bit confused. I was like, I'm not sure what you want me to say further. And she was like, your posture. You had your arms folded like this. And I will tell you, I always have my arms folded. I have my arms folded when I'm not doing anything. If I'm sitting somewhere, if I'm in a team meeting, if I'm walking outside, I usually have my arms like this. And my arms should probably be like this if people in China don't want me to move around so much. So it's just an unconscious thing. Even in China, you'll hear a lot of like Chinese women say at the end of all of their sentences. They'll say, do you understand? It's unconscious to them. So even during that meeting with Emma, I was kind of going like this, and I was like, she's probably gonna get mad if I do that. But she was like, your posture. And I was just confused. Like my arms were folded, and this is coming up again, right? And I was like, she continued, the parent, he complained that you were sitting with your arms folded in the back of the class. Mind you, let's see, if I had to draw a diagram, that triangle is where the parent is, this is where the PA is, and this is where the teacher is, and I'm way back here, and I'm just taking notes, and when I'm done taking notes, I just pull one of these, and I'm just watching. And apparently that was offensive. So it didn't seem like Emma had enough gas for this one, and the center director is to the left, Emma's to the right, and I'm like, we're in the same triangular formation as the parent-teacher conference. And Emma continues, and she said, why did you leave the PTC? Morgan didn't leave the PTC. And she's always gonna bring up Morgan. Morgan is like the white child from the United Kingdom. I'm the black kid from America. She's always comparing me to him, even though he's just been here for like a week and a half at this point. And I was like, well, Morgan wasn't in that parent-teacher conference. And she checks her notes, and she finally agrees with me for the first time. She's like, yeah, he wasn't there. And she was like, then why did you leave? And the answer was very simple. I pulled out my phone, which had my schedule, and it said, Sam observes parent-teacher conference from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And mind you, there was like 15 parents that needed to be seen. They all came in one at a time. So I had to draw the line somewhere. So around 11, I got up, I excused myself, and I went to the very next thing on my schedule. And Emma is just like, don't you see this as rude? Don't you see that as rude that you didn't wait until the conference was done and you just got up and left? And I'm still scratching my head. I'm scratching my head about the arm folding thing. I'm scratching my head about the parent-teacher conference thing. And I'm like, do we not follow schedules anymore? Can I take an hour and a half lunch? Can I come to work 45 minutes late? If 5 people were to come sit at the lunch table that I didn't know, would I have to wait for them to finish their food and get up so I didn't disrespect them? At least I excused myself when I left. Mind you, this parent, he never looked at me. He never made eye contact with me. He never greeted me. He was already late for his own parent-teacher conference. And maybe that's why he was mad, because he was waiting outside for a very long time. But at this point, the center director to the left, she gets up and she leaves. She did exactly what they accused me of. They just accused me of getting up and leaving during a meeting. A meeting that wasn't mine, by the way. I was observing this meeting. I wasn't a part of the meeting. I wasn't in front of the parent like this, talking about his kid. I was just in the back of the class writing notes. The center director gets up and leaves. She doesn't even say, excuse me. And now it's just me and Emma. And Emma is just like, we're not here to baby you. We're not here to baby you. We're not here to teach you manners or whatever. And I'm like, if I had a good manager, Emma would just simply tell the parent, like, hey, he's not from China. He's not from here. He's just been here. He hasn't even been here 45 days yet. Excuse him. He wasn't trying to insult you. And I even was like, hey, I'm sorry. I can offer him an apology if he wants. But EF is a company that they don't do apologies. They only terminate you. So Emma pulls out a piece of paper, and I already knew it was coming. That she's like, okay, because of this, we're deciding to end your probation and terminate you and end your time here at EF. And I really didn't care at that point because I already had my bags packed since April 4th. I had my suitcases downstairs. I was already ready to go. I was just hoping I can get one more paycheck and leave with their money and not my money. So she's reading me the contract, and it basically has a sum of all the money I've made. And then she's like, well, we're taking this out for the hotel. We're taking this out for the medical expenses. You know, when you first came and you did those medical tests. We're taking this out for, I don't know. It was just a long list of deductions. And we're taking this out for the flight. And it basically was like 8,000 yuan, and it went straight to zero. And then it went into the negative, so I owed them money. And then she was like, okay, now you owe us like 4,000 yuan, and you can pay us at this bank account here. And I was just like, no. No. And I was like, I didn't fly all the way from the United States, prepare for this job for 5 months, so I can owe you money. And the worst part is now it's like, okay, and you also, according to our policy, you have to take your passport. You have to give your passport to the police station, and they have to process your visa. So your work visa now has to be converted to a stay permit or a stay visa, which means that could take upwards to 2 weeks. So just imagine, you've just been laid off, and now you have to hand over your passport, the very thing that will allow you to go home immediately or go somewhere else. You have to sit in your apartment for 2 weeks. You're not making money. You're eating food. You're wasting money every single day. All of your quote-unquote friends are at work and reading the contract that says that I can't contact EF employees. I can't disparage the EF name. Making this video, if I signed a contract and I made this video, the penalty would be 3 months of salary, which is about like maybe 6,400 US dollars. And I was like, no, I didn't sign it. She really wanted me to sign it, but I really read it, and it said, you don't have to sign it under coercion or pressure or something like that. Basically, you can't force someone to sign this document. And I was like, I'm not signing this document. I'm going to tell my story on the internet, stay away from EF. And it was at this point things got really, really scary for me because I lost my support system. I was removed from every single group chat. I didn't have a time to set up the meetings that I wanted to set up about Emma's behavior. She was bullying me from start to scratch. I couldn't defend myself. And the last thing I said to Emma was like, so you're really going to terminate me because I folded my arms and I followed my schedule. And I felt like if I sneezed in the bathroom, they would have reported me. If I, didn't microwave my lunch, they would have reported me. If I crossed my legs in a parent-teacher conference or any observations I've had, they would have reported me. They had a reason for just about everything. They had a reason for everything. They were watching me at lunch. They were watching me in the classroom. There was always someone listening. It's like Chinese people love to play spy. And I felt like someone was also listening even in my apartment. That information was being leaked, and I found that the leak might have been Morgan himself. Because I'll explain later, towards the end. So the very next thing after this was, they were like, okay, you can leave your uniform, but if you didn't bring a change of clothes, you can just take it with you and you can mail it back to us. I was like, whatever. So I grabbed my bags, I go to my apartment, and I kind of let my close circle in China know what's going on. I'm like, hey, you won't believe this. And obviously at this point, I'm not sending voice messages anymore. I'm not sending text messages. Everyone that wants to know what happened to me, you have to come see me in person. And that's the deal. So I'm still processing this, and I'm like, okay, people are saying, yeah, you can get another job very easily because you're a US citizen and you have a bachelor's degree and you're already in China. So they're going to put you at the very top because everyone else is recruiting. They're recruiting people who already are in other countries and you're already here. For the first 2 days, it seemed like a good idea. But then I realized that if I stay in China, the chances of me having to pay the company EF goes up significantly. The chances of them coming after me goes up significantly because EF knew everything. They knew my financial records. They knew my address. They were my sponsors. They were the people who were, according to the Chinese government, who were supposed to take care of me, who were supposed to look after me, who took responsibility for me. And now they were gone. So when my electricity went off, who to call? I couldn't read Chinese. I had a few scares where my phone bill stopped working or my internet stopped working, and I had no one to call. I had to go downstairs to Starbucks, and a nice Chinese girl who worked at Starbucks, she helped me through that. But I was going to order a plane ticket and get out of there because that's what most people do. You don't wait for them to penalize you. You don't hand over your passport. You just get out of there as soon as you can. You go home, you recoup, you get your ideas together, and you figure out what you want to do next. Because the worst thing is to hand over your passport, you're stuck in China, you're not making money, and there's no one who's looking after you or who has your back. And during this whole thing, there were so much people who were just unfollowing me on WeChat, blocking me, who didn't ask how I was, who didn't want to know the story. And this Morgan fellow, I thought he was a friend. I thought he was, I guess there's a car. So I'll pause the video and I'll continue. Well, I guess it stopped. So I thought he was a friend. I sent him a ring, a wedding ring to give to someone, a message to give to someone, and he didn't deliver it. I was just blocked a few days later. This was the same guy who was like, hey, if you need anything, I'm sorry that happened to you, but if you need anything, message me. I'm here for you, bro. We can get some beers. We can go out. How do you go from we can get some beers and go out to 2 days later, I'm blocked? So Emma got to him. Emma has him in his pocket. Emma's about to promote him and make him the star of Foshan. And it's so strange how things switch so quickly from training. Where I was the star at training. I was very liked and very desired, to being the weakest link at Foshan 2 in just a matter of days, apparently. And I was getting strange knocks on my door because the company does have permission to enter my apartment. So my paranoia was growing exponentially. Exponentially. I was afraid of knocks at the door. I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to run into anyone. I lost my passion to go out. And I wasn't depressed. I was just paranoid. I was sort of afraid, but also sort of pissed that I'm in a foreign country and this is the first time I've been in a foreign country where I didn't have a strong support system. When I was in Japan, I had my friends at the hostel that I can trust. When I was in Turkey, I had my friends at the hostel. When I was in Mexico, I had my friends at the hostel. Philippines as well, I had people that I can count on. But China was without a doubt one of the worst experiences I've ever had. Everyone had a very closed mindset. People here can't fight. People here can't shoot you. Everything is basically illegal. So when a Chinese person has problems with you, they talk. They talk, they bitch, they complain, they, oh my God, that guy, you see the way he was looking at me? Oh, he folded his arms. Oh, he's an employee here. Why isn't he smiling more? Everyone's in your personal business because that's how Chinese people fight. You know, most Americans would be like, do something about it, you know? What are you looking at? You're staring at me. And I noticed that there are some things in America that are truly better than China. And if I ever had to choose, I would always choose America over China. And I was contemplating, I was like, I would rather be poor in Miami than be rich in China. I'd rather be poor in good company than to be rich and alone. And that's what I was. In China, I was rich and alone, overworked and no social life. And then here in Miami, I'm poor. I have friends that I can rely on. I have family. I have everything that I need. I have a social life. I can go to art clubs, run clubs, dance clubs, and most of these clubs are free. All you have to do is show up. In China, you actively have to look for fun. You actively have to look for something to do. And even when you find it, you might not find anyone in your anyone who does speak your language there. So good luck. Either way, one tip is not to give everything up. A lot of people, they come to China or they come overseas to work and they sell their car, they give up their apartment, they give up their phone number. I kept all of these things just in case. I kept my US phone number, I kept my vehicles, I didn't sell anything. I was paying 2 rents, one rent in Miami and one rent in Guangzhou. Did I save as much money as my friends and all my other international teachers? I did not save as much, maybe a few $100s, but I made sure to have that security net because look where I am now. My bedroom, my computer, all of it is still furnished. All of it is still here. Everything is still here. And let's, I don't have to worry about getting my apartment back or being homeless. And these are the contingencies you should have whenever you're taking a job overseas, because we're all going to run into an Emma at one point in our lives, in our careers. You're going to run into an Emma. You're going to go to some place where everyone likes you except your boss. And your boss has your life or your visa or your girlfriend or something in their hands. And, it was a bit unfair that I didn't get to say goodbye to a few people. I didn't get to get those first dates or those last dates with certain people. And now it's just, you've been forced into, I guess, a long distance relationship. But I believe everything happens for a reason. I am an animator, like I said, which means I love to tell stories. I usually tell stories with my animated characters, but this is the first time I'm telling stories with the power of my own voice. And this has truly been my experience in China. So at the very end, I was supposed to stay for 2 weeks. You're supposed to give them your passport so you can leave China on good terms with the government. But I don't care about leaving on good terms. I think anyone who's left China in this manner, when you quit or you get terminated, You leave immediately. The consequence is only that you can never return to mainland China. You can go to Taiwan, you can go to maybe Hong Kong, you can go to Macau, you can go to Singapore, you can go anywhere else where Chinese people exist, but you can't go to the mainland. And I'm not grieving it. It's not very often I visit a country twice anyway, so I don't necessarily care. But at least I didn't have to stay and face consequences because I decided to take a chance on a company that didn't take a chance on me. You know what I mean? I didn't even get a probation viewing. I never got a chance to show Emma my teaching ability, though I believe she never really cared to see it. She was just kind of clearing the room for someone else, perhaps. More white guys from the United Kingdom. But that's my horror story. Stay away from EF 100%. You can go to China, but make sure you control and you have say where you want to go. That if you choose a city like Chongqing or Beijing, that it's where you want to go, not where you're assigned. If you're black, just go to Japan. They like us way better over there. Go to the Philippines. They like us way better over there. Go to Taiwan. They like us way better over there. If you want a girl from the mainland, most likely the girls who liked me in the mainland, they've already been to America or they've studied internationally. So they're already a bit more open-minded. But you're not going to get a girl from the mainland who's never left the country. She probably doesn't know English, and if she does, she has CCP rhetoric. She doesn't know freedom. She's never voted. She has no idea what the world has to offer her. Forget it. There's many places that are better than China, and to be honest, China is lucrative. It's attractive because you make so much money just doing something as simple as teaching English. But you will be overworked. You'll be working 12 to 13 hours per day, and you'll just have enough day left over to go to sleep and wake up and do it again. It's not worth it. If you're an American especially, stay in America. You can find a good job in America. You might have to work harder. It's a bit more competitive. The job market sucks. I get it. But it is just better because most of those people in China, they're applying to come over here. Their embassy is filled. The U.S. embassy is filled of Chinese people trying to come here. It is not the other way around. Our embassies are not filled with people trying to go to China. If you look at most countries, Philippines, Thailand, Taiwan, even countries in Europe, it's mostly people applying to the United States of America. It is not the other way around. You don't see a mass exodus of Americans applying to go live in Congo or Madagascar or Taiwan or China. So remember, your US passport is power. English is the standard language of the world. The US dollar is the standard currency, and America is the number one economy. It is better to strengthen your own economy than to go somewhere else. So I learned my lesson. If I ever did it again, I would do the exact same contingencies. I would keep my apartment, keep my phone number, and if there's even one red flag in an interview process, quit. And always set up your employers. Don't just arrive somewhere and be like, I'm going to look for a job. Look for a job even when you have a job. Always. You can always just say, you can push your start date to another start date. Just push it. Just be like, okay, I'm willing to start in 3 months. And then in 3 months, if you still want to stay at your current job, you just say, hey, I changed my mind. I'm sorry. There's no loyalty in this. You're just an employee. Don't think these are your friends and they're looking out for you and they're going to take you out to dinner. And they're at the end, when I left EF, I only had 2 people that I can trust and rely on. And I wanted it to be 3, but Morgan was a snake. He was a snake in the garden. And he ran off with my wedding ring. Kept it for himself, probably didn't give it to the girl that I wanted to. So I'd have to give it to her in person the next time I see her. But it won't be in the mainland. Hopefully it'll be in America. Because she frequents this country quite some time. But that's my story. I guess I can add a few more things. In China, the food was really making my skin break out a lot. It's funny, I've been in America for only 1 day and my skin completely cleared up. But when I was over there, I had pimples here, I had pimples and little zits and blisters all over my forehead. And it was the food. The food is very cheap in China, but the quality of food is significantly bad. It's really bad. The oils they use is really bad. The chicken tastes weird. The rice smells like sewage. The rice has a weird aftertaste. There's not much food variety in China. You would think they have it, but there's 3 different beers. There's 2 cereals you can choose from. There's one company that has all the milk. There's one company that has all the orange juice. It's not like America where you have like 20 different options of cereal, 20 different options of soda, 20 different options, hundreds of options of beer, hundreds of options of candy. Buying candy in China is the worst. There's 2 gummy brands. Everything that's a mint is double mint brand in a different flavor. And it's the same thing. Everyone was selling the same thing at every store. There wasn't much variety at all. You're not going to be. I think Japan and the US has the most food variety when it comes to entering a supermarket or something like that. But the food was definitely breaking my skin up. Emma had terrible skin. A lot of people in the office had terrible skin. Talking about benefits, you're not going to get bereavement. You're not going to get sick days. In China, when you get sick, you have to actually go to the hospital and get a note. You just can't be like, I'm not feeling good today, and you stay home. You need to get a note from the doctor. So a lot of people in the office, I seen 2 people get hospitalized. They were so sick, and it was only until it became serious enough that they had to go to the hospital that they actually can use their sick days. It's very weird. You still don't get a full day of pay. It's not what you want. You don't get bereavement. You're not getting maternity. You're not getting anything. The office was filled with, it was like take your child to work day every day. It was always someone's kid from the office. Like you had 5 people's kids in there and you're working and you have kids that are around you and hitting your foot and trying to get your attention. It wasn't even a place where you can really concentrate and do your work. There was always kids coming in and out. It was fairly unprofessional for a place that, wants professionalism. Professionalism is me being by myself, doing my lesson plans, doing what I'm told, getting in and getting out. It's not chit chat time. I'm not here to play with someone's kid because you didn't have a babysitter. China doesn't have that. It doesn't have that. You just bring your kid to work. You'll often see at times that you'll enter a store or a restaurant and the kids are just playing on the ground. That's what China is. For this first world country, it has a very third world vibe. That's something you would see in the Philippines or something. But you needed a shower filter because the water was acidic. I had to change my shower filter. I had to filter all my water with the Brita filter. And I had to cook my own food because the oil-based food that I was eating was killing me. And that sort of helps clear my skin up. But obviously just coming to America with fresh air, fresh water, and a good shower cleared up everything. So the food wasn't that great. The nightlife was terrible. Everything was dead. The bars were dead. The nightclubs were fake. They were either filled with prostitutes or women for hire. You'd never find just a random girl just walking in there with her girlfriends on a girls' night out. That did not exist. And yeah, that's my experience. I would not recommend it. It was very, very scary in the last few days. I had to flee to the airport and I couldn't tell anyone that I was leaving because I didn't want EF or Emma to get ahead of me. This whole time, Emma's been ahead of me. She was ahead of me for when I was thinking about quitting. I was terminated instead. Every time I tried to set a meeting, she set a meeting before me. Every time I tried to talk to someone, she spoke to that person before me. Someone was leaking my information, or they had some sort of listening device in my room, or maybe it was on my desk, or my computer was bugged. But I was extremely paranoid. They figured me out. In those last few days, in that last week, no one made eye contact with me. No one. People who wanted to know if I was married, people who wanted to know if I was a rapper, all of a sudden, they're not looking me in the eye anymore. They're walking past me like I had cancer. I used to see, was there something in my hair? I used to check if there was something in my hair, if I had my zipper open, like I walked out the bathroom and I didn't zip my pants. I was really, really wondering what was going on. The atmosphere was so toxic that I didn't want to eat lunch in the break room anymore. I didn't want to use bathroom on the same floor that our building was on. I would use the bathroom downstairs. I'd eat lunch at the park outside of the mall. I didn't want to be at the center anymore. My body was physically rejecting it. I no longer said hello or good morning to people. I didn't force it anymore. People weren't saying it to me, so I wasn't saying it to them. So it's very strange that Emma would say, well, you're kind of intimidating people around here. Everyone was intimidating me, especially Emma. She was the main one. Emma, my mentor, Cece, the most toxic old heads you'll ever come across in China. And I don't know. I'm glad it was 45 days and it didn't take a half a year of my life. I do think that the people I've met, if our bond is true, I will see them again in the United States or any other country because my travels are not over. And you never know. Maybe that was the reason I had to go to China, to meet those particular two people and to write or tell this story. And who knows, maybe I'll animate it as well because I love a good animation. Maybe I can just create a GIF of what Emma looks like, this demonic monster from Canton or something. This soulless woman with all this acne, who never smiles and can never say a nice thing. She's like a Chinese fire-breathing dragon or whatever, those mythical beasts, but she doesn't have the goofy smile on her face. But either way, stay away from EF. If you're gonna work in China, go to a legitimate school, like an actual school, not a center. You'll probably have a better experience. And this is Sam. I'm out. See ya.